Oh, hello there, people. So just standing here eating this lovely Dixie Red Peach picked freshly off the tree here. So today I want to talk a little bit about gardening economy and why indeed you wish to grow something or why not, and the potential benefit to yourself, to whoever's going to eat it, to bees, etc., and why indeed you want to, grow something. And it's quite a big subject, this, and very, very important indeed. So why do you want to grow it? Because you want to eat it, because you want to grow it for someone else to give away, because you like the taste of it, because you want to continue a heritage variety of something, and just a massive, massive subject indeed. So for instance, whilst I'm on the subject of eating this lovely peach here, you've got to think, so yes, peaches are a great thing to grow. You can grow them in the UK. I've done it successfully, getting crops for a few years off of this tree now. Brilliant. But at the end of the day, peach leaf curl and things like that, this is a very, very large consideration where which you may decide, you know what, I don't want to be going into growing something, in that sort of degree of detail that will take that extra little bit of attention. I might decide I just want to grow a pear tree, which I can just put outside in my garden, put it in the ground, and within the boundaries of sort of reason, can just basically fend for itself. You can leave it outside, in the winter, no problem. Where which, you start putting peach trees outside in the winter, you've got issues of them getting wet and things like that. And of course, peach leaf curl, I spoke a lot about that in the past. So there we go. Another example would be something like blueberries. Now, blueberries are a great thing to grow, and I'm spending a lot more effort now on getting, good blueberry crops, and I just had a few off the bush out of three of the bushes out there tonight. So certainly worth growing if you really, really want them. But on the other hand, you might decide, you know what, for the sort of relatively small crop that you get off of one plant, you might, and the cost indeed of the plants and the ericaceous compost, or the effort to make your own compost, the ericaceous feed, however indeed you are going to go around doing that, because blueberries require sort of acidic compost in order to thrive, acidic growing medium. You might decide, you know what, I just want to put some tayberries in, or some blackberries, or some raspberries, and probably get a bigger crop for the ground in which they take up, and much more, could just be described as cost effective. Regarding vegetables, you might think, cool, you know what, I really like carrots. I love my own fresh tasting carrots, and they are beautiful. But on the other hand, you might decide, excuse me a minute, you might turn around and decide, you know what, the space they take up and how cheap they are to buy, either at the greengrocers, the supermarket, farm shop, whatever, you might decide, you know what, I'd rather set my entire vegetable patch with something like spinach, where which spinach, it crops continually, whereas once you've eaten that carrot, it's gone, but perpetual, it will keep carrying on, a bit like something like Swiss chard, and kale as well. Kale is a very good thing to grow, but at the same time, you've got to really cover them up because of things like cabbage white butterflies, stuff like that. And you've got to be just thinking about, how much time and effort you want to put into this subject, because it can be, to a degree, very disheartening to people, where you spend loads of effort growing a crop that you're really, really looking forward to, and then for whatever reason you don't get a crop. You put loads of effort in and the crop is poor, and you think, oh dear, really what I should have done was just should have just grown some spinach, and nothing's guaranteed, but something like that, you're going to get more, how should we put it, bang for your buck. Now, of course, saving money that some people think about with regards to growing your own, it's not a simple subject to get into, because there's lots of different variables in this. So for instance, the carrot example, how cheap are carrots to buy? We're talking purely pounds and pence here, or whatever currency you're trading in wherever you live. We're not talking about quality of crop, what goes into it. We're talking purely the factual, how much it costs for a bag of carrots or a bag of onions. Relatively cheap, really, isn't it? You think of some onions, how much space onions take up, and you think, is it worth it, or should I just go and buy them? Now, of course, cost and money is not the only consideration to many, many people with regards to growing their own. So you've got to be thinking, yes, something like, sweet corn takes up a lot of space for the crop you get, maybe 2, if you're lucky, 3, cobs per plant. but the taste is phenomenal in many cases, as can be homegrown anything, onions, leeks, you name it. Homegrown stuff can taste absolutely amazing, it really can, but so can, commercially farmed stuff as well. Okay, so basically what I want to get over to people is, when you're growing your own, start thinking about your reasons for doing it. So, one good reason can be to generate beauty. I mean, this peach tree, I know I keep going on about it, and you've all seen it before, but you get the lovely pink blossoms, don't you? But then on the other hand, you've got an apple tree, you again get beautiful blossoms as well. Perhaps not so unique growing in the UK as like a peach tree, but you're starting to think now, about the economy and the effort. So one great example I can give, and one thing that I think people who want a relatively low maintenance crop which grows really well in the UK, and you can propagate them for very, very cheap, is grapes, or are grapes. I mean, you've seen my grapevines, and some of them, you can grow them from cuttings, and I mean, they do really well. If you've got a friend who's got a particular grapevine, you take a cutting from that, and then you manage to root it, and then you grow it, and 3, 4, 5 years later, maybe even 2, if you're lucky, you might be getting some grapes off of that vine. And seriously, once they get going, they really can, crop prolifically, and then you can take further cuttings, and away you go. The same with things like gooseberries, which grow really well, here in the UK as well. You can propagate them from cuttings, and you can save your own seeds. Something like runner beans, for instance. You grow your beans, you let a few go to seed at the end of the season, and then you can just keep continuing with your own sort of. So let's say, for instance, you buy a load of runner beans one year, 50 years down the line, you could still be growing runner beans from your own seeds. The same with broad beans, French beans, very, very much worth doing. Marrows, you've got to make sure they're not hybrids though, because they won't be true to type. But I think you get the idea. Okay, so another thing, I'm talking very much about people who don't have much space, don't have much time. For instance, your average person like myself, who has to work, do other things as well, and run a garden, which is of course a privilege and a pleasure. But we don't have infinite supplies of time. Of course, if people's life circumstances are different, let's say they don't have sort of financial issues, so to speak, or time issues, health issues, family issues, friend issues, bill issues, you get the idea. And they've got loads of time that they can spend on the garden, they've got loads of land, they've got all the money to buy all the equipment that they want, or to get people in to help them do it. These people, of course, may have more option for trying more and more things, and and great for them. But you've got to decide the time that you've got to spend on your garden, the expenses that you've got, and the effort that you want to put in, and what you're going to get out of it. Because a classic example, right, is something like melons. Now, if you've been following me, you'll know that I have indeed have had success with melons, in previous years. But this year, the melon project, it's not really going that well, to be honest, and I'll be lucky if I get one melon. I've got to weed where they are, and then when that's done, I'll show you what's going on. I'm not deliberately hiding it, from people. I will, because a few people have asked me about it now, so I will be, doing a melon video, but I want to weed it so you can actually see the plants. A lot of this is sort of, the time, other things to do, the accessibility. You may remember, if you've been watching me a while, what happened with the mango tree. Me being very foolish indeed. I did know better, but for whatever reason, I didn't protect it properly in the winter. And unsurprisingly, a tropical plant, didn't survive through the winter. Or it survived into early spring, something like that. But you get the idea, So, time, effort you want to put in, reasons for doing it, money, time saving. But, beyond all of this, one mustn't forget, the true reasons that we're doing this are for, just growing great quality crops that we know what goes into, the joy, the effort, the fun, the exercise even of doing, the actual gardening itself. It's so beneficial, so good for your health in general, if you're well enough to do it, of course, general gardening. So yeah, just a very, very important subject, but I wanted to sort of cover that video. And if I think about it, really, if I just had my vegetable patch, which you've all seen, if I literally just set that entire thing with spinach, right, that really would be a very cost-effective way of growing. And another thing you've got to think about is, yes, some people say, oh yeah, you save loads of money by growing your own, and that's certainly not the reason why I grow my own, to save money. I grow my own because I love doing it, and I love the crops, and the benefit for nature as well, with the flowers and the bees and all that. But it all depends. Let's say you've got a very well-paying job, and you can get paid a very high hourly rate for your work. Well, it's not going to save you money, is it, to go out into your garden and grow your own spinach? You can just go down the shop and buy it, whether organically grown or not. You get my point. So get the reasons clear to yourself. But it's an amazing thing to do, growing your own, but make sure you get it clear. And it's sort of like if you want to call it, the risk to benefit ratio. Analyze it. So for instance, you're going to go out and buy a plant that, like I did with the mango tree. It cost about 35, 40 quid, and then it went and got zapped by the frost. I mean, how stupid. Whereas, on the other hand, that money now, I could have bought myself another apple tree, or another lovely cherry tree, or something like that. And you just think, plan, don't make silly mistakes, and do your research. Alright then, enough of me babbling on. I'm going to enjoy this peach. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you like my work, please feel free to like, share and subscribe. See you next time.